You and your hot girlfriend are preparing to eat dinner. And after that, do what? You know it. Today you specially came home very early, went to the supermarket to buy things to cook to play the capable man. You intended to make rare goat roll, and the hot pot, just thinking about it, makes you crave. But oh no, maybe for the next meal you should research more carefully. Your hot girlfriend is from Canada, and she hasn't and will never touch it. Her face turned red with anger like being drugged. So that concludes a romantic evening. What the fuck? Why you're thinking that, right? So please, join me to the end of this video to know that you're wrong, and your girl is not at fault. Before getting to the answer, give me 1 minute of advertising. Can you like and share this video of mine? Truly, this is extremely meaningful to me, because I'm a single mom raising 2 small children, and I need the money source from this YouTube job. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. We think menus are logic. Truthfully, the West's rejection stems from medieval theology and it trains physical limits. On every inhabited continent, this is a normal food. In Lagos, it is stewed with tomatoes and crayfish over yam. In Lahore, slow braised in copper with ginger and chilies. In Kingston, it is curried. In Monterey, pit roasted. Across Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, and Latin America, this isn't a delicacy, exotic, or adventurous. It was approximately 8,000 BCE, high in the rugged, unforgiving terrain of the Zagros Mountains. Ancient humans achieved something unprecedented. They stopped hunting. They started managing. By analyzing ancient bone fragments, an archaeozoologist discovered a deliberate kill pattern targeting young males, proving that the domestication of this specific livestock species predated others by a millennium. The wild ancestor was the bezoar ibex, a stocky, muscular ruminant built for absolute survival. They did not choose this creature for its size. They chose it for its biological supremacy. Consider the physics of primitive survival. A single animal weighs between 45 and 130 pounds. Small enough to physically control, fast enough to rapidly breed. It provides copious amounts of daily milk, dense muscular protein, and highly durable hide. But the definitive advantage, the one physiological trait that permanently changed human history, was its appetite. A goat is a browser, it is not a grazer. This biological distinction is absolutely everything. Cattle require vast, flat expanses of deep-rooted grass and immense volumes of water. They need a pristine, carefully managed pasture. A goat eats thorns. It consumes bark, woody stems, and jagged scrub growing on near-vertical rock faces. It extracts essential calories from a barren, crumbling landscape that would aggressively starve a cow in mere weeks. For a Neolithic family clinging to the very edge of existence, this animal was a self-contained biological engine. Then there's the brutal, unforgiving math of preservation. Before mechanical refrigeration, immense scale was a fatal liability. A slaughtered cow produces an enormous carcass, hundreds of pounds of fresh meat that will rapidly rot in the heat within hours, unless preserved through massive collective labor. A goat, however, yields 30 to 60 pounds. It is the exact, perfectly calibrated volume. A family can efficiently eat the entire animal across just 2 meals. Nothing ever spoils. Nothing is wasted. The rejection was never about flavor. It was not a culinary decision. It was a direct outcome of medieval Christian theology, land privatization, and the brutal cultural machinery of the British Empire. The first devastating blow was entirely religious. In medieval Europe, the visual iconography of Satan was literally drawn from this specific animal. The curved horns, the cloven hooves, the unsettling vertical slit pupils. The Catholic Church systematically demonized older pagan traditions that revered these creatures. Overnight, an incredibly efficient survival tool was symbolically contaminated. It became the literal face of evil. Beef and pork carried no such satanic baggage. They became potent symbols of prestige. While this animal was pushed to the extreme margins, forever associated with deep poverty and rural backwardness. Then came the ruthless math of the enclosure movement. From the 16th century onward, English elites began fencing off shared village commons, converting rugged public scrubland into private, highly profitable estates. They demanded maximum financial return per acre. Cattle delivered massive yields on enclosed grass. Goats, however, were an absolute disaster for the new capitalist landlords. They relentlessly destroyed hedgerows. They consumed valuable timber bark. They easily jumped fences perfectly designed to contain them. And most critically, their extremely small frames could not generate the massive profit margins that the rapidly emerging commercial meat markets demanded. They were economically expelled. The British Empire then exported this exact dietary hierarchy across the globe with terrifying efficiency. As colonizers spread into new global territories, they violently restructured complex indigenous food systems. The core message was neither subtle nor scientific. Beef was inherently civilized. The alternative was entirely primitive. Colonial administrators actively suppressed indigenous herding traditions, heavily enforcing a cattle-based agriculture that enriched elite British export firms, while simultaneously erasing thousands of years of local dietary wisdom. The food on your modern plate today is simply an imperial legacy. The final absolute erasure happened in America. It wasn't just cultural, it was heavily industrialized. The stockyards of Chicago, the massive meatpacking monopolies, the aggressive westward expansion across perfectly flat plains. Every single piece of massive infrastructure was deliberately built for one massive animal. When Gustavus Swift invented the heavily insulated, refrigerated railroad car in the 1870s, he engineered the entire system for a massive 600-pound carcass. A 50-pound animal simply did not mathematically justify the high cost of expensive ice and complex, long-distance rail logistics. The massive economies of scale demanded immense size, and size meant cattle. The modern USDA grading systems, the expensive slaughterhouse chains, and the massive, multi-million-dollar marketing machines were all strictly designed around this single, massive animal. The alternative wasn't forgotten. It was physically excluded by the brutal mechanics of an industrialized machine. Here is the most infuriating, mind-blowing paradox of this entire system. The exact meat the United States actively avoids is objectively the healthiest red meat available. A standard serving contains vastly lower cholesterol, fewer calories, and significantly less total fat than beef, pork, or even chicken. While offering equal iron and protein, it is also radically more environmentally efficient, producing far less greenhouse gas and requiring a tiny fraction of the massive water volumes needed for industrial cattle. Yet in recent years, immigrant communities have quietly reignited demand, seeking halal butchers and authentic birria. But the massive centralized supply chains still simply cannot deliver. The things you eat are not natural choices. The World Bank recognizes this animal as a critical tool against global poverty. Countries like Nigeria, India, and China maintain massive, deeply functional herds. It is the only meat that crosses every major religious boundary on Earth. Your girlfriend isn't actively making a choice. She is merely operating within a tightly controlled, deeply restrictive system, built by medieval paranoia, our arrogant colonial greed, and the rigid dimensions of a 19th century train car. That is a deliberate design choice. And it is a choice you never even knew they made for you.